What does it mean to be fearless? According to Taylor Swift, fearless is getting back up and fighting for what you want, over and over again, even though every time you've tried before, you've lost.
That really stuck out to me as something that not only described the feeling you get when you're in love, but it describes the feeling that I hoped to have putting out that album. Everything just disappears, all your fears and your anxiety and your doubt, and you put it out and you hope people like it. And I think there's a lot of fearlessness that goes into love and writing honest songs about what you're going through on a daily basis. So I'm really, really happy that we chose that as the album title.
Every Taylor Swift album has an era associated with it. Each era has its own branding, attitude, and aesthetic. And each one was a turning point in Taylor Swift's career. The Fearless era was no exception, and it cemented Taylor Swift as one of the biggest pop stars in the world. If you don't know, I did a video on Taylor's debut era, if you want to check that out. Overall, I want to make this video clear and concise with adequate information to help you really understand what the vibes were at this time. So step into your sequin cowgirl boots and let's dive into the Fearless era. Post her self-titled debut album, Taylor was teetering on the edge of mega-stardom. However, this explosion of fame didn't faze her. Taylor still lived at home with her family in Hendersonville, Tennessee for a little while longer. She wasn't letting any of her success go to her head, and instead channeled her energy into expressing her emotions through songs.
Do the songs just come to you?
Yeah, in the middle of my day, or in the middle of sleeping, or the middle of doing a meet and greet or signing an autograph, I'll get this idea, and it usually is a thought that ends up being either the hook or something in the pre-chorus or a melody that's kind of there with the hook, but it's kind of involuntary at this point.
In her own words, Taylor described this era as one where she was, quote, obsessed with the complexities of emotions. It was a time of exploring feelings, from the heady rush of first love to the heartache of losing it, and every emotion between and beyond. Creatively, Taylor was spreading her wings. She co-wrote all songs on Fearless and was the sole writer of 8 of them, taking on a much larger role in the production process compared to her debut album. She, of course, continued to take inspiration from her personal life and transformed her emotions and stories into heartfelt ballads and catchy melodies.
Playing a show every night, but that didn't change the fact that, I was meeting boys and got my heart broken and lived life the way a 16 to 18-year-old lives their life. Regardless of if you're staying in a hotel or if you're going to high school every day, those things happen to you. And I've tried to leave the whole travel aspect out of my writing and just focus on feelings and boys, because that's what I like to write songs about.
Creating Fearless was an immersive process, with Taylor, along with her producer, Nathan Chapman, striving to capture the magic of the emotions she wanted to convey. Taylor wanted the album to be a snapshot of her life from the ages of 16 to 18, which is exactly what it ended up being. The process was not just about songwriting, though. Taylor was heavily involved in the recording, mixing, and even the album artwork, ensuring that every aspect of the album truly represented her vision. Now let's dive into the album itself. This record is packed with 13 tracks, each a story waiting to be told. First up, Fearless, the album's namesake, an anthem of boldness and bravery. It's a sonic picture of a young Taylor just dancing in the rain, throwing caution to the wind. 15, a heartwarming letter to her younger self, and a relatable anthem for all the young hearts venturing into the horrific, crazy world of high school. Fearless was kickstarted by the release of the single Love Story, a Romeo and Juliet-inspired anthem that quickly climbed the charts. The song, written about a love interest her family and friends did not approve of, resonated with listeners worldwide, reaching number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100. Hey Steven, one of my personal favorites, a charming ode to a crush. And this song really showcases how Taylor can take just an everyday normal emotion for a teenage girl and turn it into music magic. And then things slow down with White Horse. Actually, we get stopped in our tracks with White Horse, which is a heartbreaking ballad about disillusionment and the loss of innocence, the loss of love. You Belong With Me, the catchy, relatable ode to unrequited love, stood out in particular. If you're new, I'm sorry, I can't say that word, particular. Stood out in particular, topping the Billboard Hot Country Songs chart, and peaking at number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100. The album continues with Breathe, a collaboration with Colby Calais, Tell Me Why, You're Not Sorry, The Way I Loved You, and Forever and Always Follow. Then comes The Best Day, a beautiful tribute to her mother, Miss Mama Swift Andrea, followed by the closing track Change, a rallying cry about persisting in the face of obstacles. And the music videos that accompanied these songs represented the themes of young love, heartbreak, and being fearless in the face of it all.
And then Fearless, I look at that as being my diary from the time that I was 16 to when I was 18. I think it's going to be really crazy to look back when I'm older and look at these albums as these diary entries from different times in my life.
I've now finished re-recording all of Fearless, which will be coming out soon. My version of Fearless will have 26 songs on it because I've decided to add songs from the vault, which are songs that almost made the original Fearless album, but I've now gone back and recorded those so that everyone will be able to hear not only the songs that made the album, but the songs that almost made it. The full picture.
Fast forward to 2021, Taylor revisited these songs while re-recording Fearless. Just imagine that insane trip down memory lane that she had to take, stepping back into her younger self's shoes. Taylor even mentioned that her version was both nostalgic and new. There were some new additions. You All Over Me featuring Maren Morris, Mr. Perfectly Fine, Bye Bye Baby, Don't You, We Were Happy, and That's When featuring Keith Urban. I've noticed with her TV From the Vault features, they're very reminiscent of what I assume to be her influences at the time of making the album. For example, obviously Maren Morris was not an artist at this time, at least that I know of, but her music may have been the modern day equivalent to what inspired Taylor at the time, or maybe what reminds her of the Fearless era. Now I'm confusing myself. And obviously Keith Urban, country legend, obvious influence to her. And on Red, she had Chris Stapleton and Phoebe Bridgers, which I can't express it, but they very much exude Red energy. And on Speak Now TV, we have features from Paramore and Fall Out Boy. Because in my opinion, and I suppose Taylor's too, Speak Now is a very pop-punk coded album.
So I do feel the need to explain what I'm doing because it's not normal. I've always wanted to own my own music since I started making my music. And if you probably don't know this, but most of your favorite artists do not own their work. The music industry is, there was something that happened years ago where I made it very clear that I wanted to be able to buy my music. That opportunity was not given to me and it was sold to somebody else. And so I just figured I was the one who made this music. First, I can just make it again. When something says in parentheses Taylor's version next to it, that means I own it, which is exciting.
The re-recording process was a meticulous one, is a meticulous one. Taylor wants the re-recorded versions to be as close as possible to the original ones, so that fans can replace the old versions without losing the essence of the songs they loved. The success of Fearless, Taylor's version, was a clear indication of the loyalty of Swifties and the timeless appeal of Taylor's music. It was also a triumphant moment for Taylor, who was able to reclaim the narrative of her music. Taylor, new and old, has always had a gift of turning her personal experiences into something we can all relate to.
When I put out my first album, there was a fear that I had that maybe my music would be too personal for people to relate to. It's so my personal story that maybe people might not be able to relate. It actually had the opposite effect. It was crazy how many people were coming up to me and mentioning the songs that were the most personal on the record and saying that those were the ones they could relate to the most. And at that point, I started to realize that it was a good thing to put details into songs, and it's how I had always written, so I didn't really know any other different way.
The marketing campaign for Fearless was as innovative as it was successful. Big Machine Records, Taylor's label at the time, utilized social media like MySpace and YouTube to connect with her fans, which in 2023 oh god, that sounded gross to say out loud, but it sounds like, yeah, duh, now, but at the time, this was a novel idea. Fans were encouraged to join Taylor's online community, which offered exclusive content like behind-the-scenes footage and early access to tickets. These moves, combined with traditional promotional methods like TV performances and radio interviews, ensured that Fearless debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200 and remained in the top 10 for 50 consecutive weeks. The Fearless era also saw Taylor embark on her first headlining tour, which was appropriately named the Fearless Tour. The tour spanned over 100 shows and grossed over $63 million. It spanned from April 2009 to July of 2010, and Taylor worked that upgraded budget, let me tell you. Debut was very much like Sweet Girl with just her guitar on stage, but the Fearless Tour, it's hard to say it's a spectacle now when we're witnessing the Eras Tour, just insanity, but this was the beginning of a spectacle. The tour stage was elaborate and featured a main stage that resembled a castle turret. There were also 2 smaller stages located in the middle of the audience, which allowed Taylor to get up close and personal with her fans. Taylor's setlist for the tour was a blend of songs from Fearless and her debut album, with a few surprise covers thrown in. The costumes, girl. Mother wore a number of delicious outfits, including a sparkly gold dress for Love Story and a glamalicious marching band ensemble for You Belong With Me. It was so just wild and dramatic and out there and in the best way. I like to say obnoxious in a good way. I love obnoxious. I consider myself and my style obnoxious. And to me personally, I think Taylor's the same way on stage. She's obnoxious dipped in glitter. The Fearless era was a period of enormous recognition for Taylor. The album itself won Album of the Year, making Taylor at 20 years old the youngest ever Album of the Year winner at that time, and Best Country Album at the 52nd Annual Grammy Awards. Her single White Horse won Best Female Country Vocal Performance and Best Country Song, and if you were not counting, that is 4 Grammys she took home that year. Additionally, she was named Artist of the Year by Billboard and won several awards at the American Music Awards and Country Music Association Awards. Let's talk about the overall aesthetic of the Fearless era. I will dub it still yeehaw, but make it sparklier. Yeehaw with a higher budget. We'll call it that. Personally, I think her fashion during the Fearless era was very, very similar to the debut era. It just seemed a bit sparklier and a bit more expensive. Taylor's style during this time was a blend of country and pop. She was frequently seen wearing dresses with sequins that could rival a disco ball, and she would match that up with some cowboy boots. And it was not just about the clothes. That hair, that iconic curly hair, those ringlets. Yeah, get into it. During the Fearless era, I had the blackest black hair dye from the box with a self-cut side bang swoop situation, kind of like I do now, that never really left me. And I would dance around in my bedroom in my Taking Back Sunday t-shirt to You Belong With Me. And I also had the most ridiculous hole type thing, but not really a fully punctured hole, in the total wrong part of my nostril because I thought I could pierce my own nose with a sewing needle. That was my personal Swemo take on the Fearless look. You would not catch me in cowgirl boots, but I was definitely writing Taylor Swift lyrics on my Converse, that's for sure. Random but critical Note here, this is also the time when Taylor started writing 13 on her hand for good luck, and of course 13 is her favorite number. In all seriousness though, Taylor's fashion choices during this era were more than just style. They represented a young woman coming into her own, expressing her personality, and fearlessly standing out. Taylor's hair and style was quickly adopted by her young fans. The brand LEI took notice of this and made Taylor the face of their brand. Together, they designed a line of sundresses, and Taylor was very conscious of her fan base and wanted to make sure this line was not only cute, but accessible for them. So the line was sold at Walmart for about $14 a dress. With millions of adoring fans donning sundresses and big curls, Taylor was at the top of her game. Even at the height of the Fearless era, Taylor made it a point to give back to the community. Her philanthropic efforts were as varied and as generous as her discography.
I am involved in charities. I haven't just picked one. I try to spread it out and really be a part of a lot of different charities, but Red Cross has been a favorite of mine, also St. Jude's. And also, when I go to a town that has had flooding or natural disasters happen there, I give back privately. And I'm a big fan of making a difference in a family's life when I meet someone who really needs it. And I don't talk about those ones because it's so rewarding just on a personal level to be able to help people now.
Taylor's personal life during the Fearless era was a mix of normal teenage experience and super crazy high-profile events. She dated Joe Jonas and Taylor Lautner, and their relationships, and especially their breakups, influenced several of her songs. Beyond the headlines, Taylor was grappling with the challenges of fame. The stronger her star power got, the less invites she got to hang out with friends. They wanted a more low-key experience, and when you go out to eat with Taylor Swift, you will be interrupted every 5 minutes by a fan wanting a picture or an autograph. This devastated Taylor and made her feel like that lonely middle schooler all over again. Despite this, she completely understood where they were coming from. Her growing celebrity meant a complete loss of privacy, but it also allowed her to connect with millions of fans worldwide.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Did mine take?
You're the prettiest woman in the whole world.
Ellie, what did you do to see Taylor Swift today?
I traveled from my house at 11 o'clock at night, and I got to Good Morning America at 1 in the morning, and I've been waiting here since then.
I just always try to let people into my life and show them what they've done for me, because the fans are the reason I'm here. They're the reason I get to stand on a big stage.
And of course, the Fearless era wasn't without its fair share of, we'll call it challenges. Now, chances are you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you're watching this, you're probably a Taylor Swift fan. You're probably very aware that at 19 years old, Taylor won the Best Female Video for You Belong With Me. I think I mentioned that earlier. However, her acceptance speech was abruptly interrupted by Kanye West, who jumped on stage to proclaim that Beyoncé should have won the award. It was a significant moment in not just Taylor's career, but in her personal life as well.
It was so echoey in there. At the time, I didn't know they were booing him doing that. I thought that they were booing me. For someone who's built their whole belief system on getting people to clap for you, the whole crowd booing is a pretty formative experience.
It sparked widespread outrage, dominated headlines, and placed Taylor at the center of a media storm. And when it was time for her to mend her wounds, she got right back to work. And there was a lot of work to be done. By 2009, Taylor had adjusted to her insane pop star schedule. On any given day, she would have 5 to 6 interviews, as well as a sound check, a meet and greet at 5. Then her show started at 8. And after performing, she would do another mass meet and greet with radio station winners and fans that were plucked from the crowd. Those fans also got to hang out in the Tea Party Room, an elaborate setup that took hours to put together in whatever city the tour was in. It was here that fans got the opportunity of a lifetime to hang out with Taylor Swift. Getting back to her crazy schedule, it wasn't just a day-to-day busy scheduled routine. No. Taylor threw in some major side quests as well. She co-wrote and recorded Best Days of Your Life for Kelly Pickler, co-wrote 2 songs for the Hannah Montana the movie soundtrack, You'll Always Find Your Way Back Home and Crazier, which she also performed. She also had the most random, wonderful collaboration with the band Boys Like Girls on the song 2 is Better Than 1. Taylor even dabbled in some acting when she appeared in her first role on CSI, and had her first film role in Valentine's Day. She also contributed 2 songs to the soundtrack, Jump Then Fall and Today Was a Fairy Tale. Finally, she had the notorious collaboration with John Mayer on the song Half of My Heart.
What makes me fearless? I think that my definition of the word fearless is not that you're not afraid of anything. It's not that you don't have fears. I think that being fearless is having a lot of fears, but jumping anyway.
The Fearless album and era, for better or worse, was a catalyst for Taylor's career, albeit a roller coaster. The lows were some of the lowest of her life, but the highs were incredible. Taylor headlined her first tour in arenas when other artists were headlining in small clubs. She sold out the Staples Center in 2 minutes and Madison Square Garden in 60 seconds. Fearless gave Taylor 2 of her highest performing singles that had a massive crossover from country to the pop charts. The album itself was the best-selling album of 2009 and remains the greatest-selling country album of all time. It was at this time that Taylor Swift became synonymous with stardom. She was a role model to millions of young people, won a slew of awards, and most importantly, faced those low points in her career head on. And this fearless energy prepared Taylor to take on a task that was just as challenging as it was fulfilling. She was ready to take full creative control of her music and let her voice be fully heard.